In 2012, researchers from 7 countries convened in the U.S. in Colorado Springs, Colorado, to discuss the future of PCK in science and the potential for a unified model for organizing research studies. In 1986, Dr. Lee Schulman introduced the construct of PCK, which clarified and generated new ways of thinking about the relationships between teacher knowledge and teacher practice. Over the course of 20 years, the model of PCK had taken on several different incarnations. While they were all based on essentially the same foundation, the interpretation of the details began varying widely. Much of the research conducted so far showed promise, but little of it was based on enough of a similar framework that it could be considered synergistic, which limited its potential for impact.
We believe we made several contributions to Schulman's original model as we looked at PCK. The most important part is that we situated it within the bigger idea of teacher professional knowledge. First, we agree with Schulman's original idea that there is a professional knowledge base from teaching that comes from both research and from professional best practices. That knowledge base can be translated into topic-specific knowledge that looks at issues like instructional strategies, content representations, and student understandings. This knowledge is still normative. This is the knowledge that we can create tests from to understand what teachers do and do not know about the topics they're teaching. But in order for that knowledge to translate to classroom practice, it goes through teachers' amplifiers and filters. Amplifiers are ideas that will enhance what they're doing. Filters are things that will block what they know from what they do into classroom practice. And all of these knowledge bases tend to form each other. As we move through teachers' filters to classroom practice, that's where we find pedagogical content knowledge. Pedagogical content is individualized, it is personal, it is dynamic. It's based on the topic that's being taught, and it's being based on the classroom context, the students and the curriculum that's going on at that specific time. Through what we see in classroom practice, it influences what we know about topic-specific knowledge, and it influences our overall knowledge base for teacher practice.
Some members of the science education research community saw a need to explore the potential to create a common model. And so the idea for a PCK Summit was born. Spearheaded by Julie Guess-Newsome from Oregon State University Cascades and Janet Carlson and April Gardner from the Biological Sciences Curriculum Study, and supported by the rest of the leadership team, which included Amanda Berry from Monash University in Australia and Leiden University in the Netherlands, Hans Fischer from University of Duisburg-Essen in Germany, and Jan van Driel from Leiden University in the Netherlands. The team designed the 2012 PCK Summit to be a 6-day intensive forum for the top minds in the world of PCK research to explore the potential for a common model for how PCK research was to be understood, conducted, and interpreted. The summit organizers invited the top PCK researchers from North and Central America, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. The organizers were hoping the participants would resolve the following: the nature of PCK. What assumptions exist for PCK as an attribute of teachers? Is it an unalterable characteristic, or does it change with experience and/or particular kinds of preparation or professional development? Model of PCK. How is PCK related to the professional knowledge base of teaching? Is it transformative or integrative? Measurement of PCK. Is PCK a knowledge base, an artifact of practice, or both? What are the appropriate levels at which to measure PCK? Contexts for studying PCK. Where should the emphasis of PCK research lie? Should it be studied in terms of the translation of teacher knowledge to practice, or in terms of the relationship between teachers' level of PCK and student outcomes? With so many different viewpoints of what PCK is, would it be realistic to expect all the players to come to a consensus? And even with a consensus reached, would it be realistic to expect everyone to leave the old models and ways of doing things behind and adopt a new consensus? With only 6 days to do it, it could be a monumental challenge. Following the first 3 presentations of the summit and a simple debrief, The participants move into 4 separate groups to discuss the potential of consensus. The groups went to separate rooms with only notes, markers, and a large flip chart of paper. Lasting for an intensive 1.5 hours each, the small group sessions were designed to stretch the researchers to their maximum intellectual and reasoning capacity.
Is this how we should start?
Wasting no time, the researchers tackled the task at hand.
Should we let that go into our question that we have before us for this session, or should we back up and say what we're supposed to accomplish in this session?
The debate started out with broader details and subjects.
We're not going to have this conversation and ask that question until we know what we mean by content knowledge and what we mean by PCK. And some people are using this hyphenated PCK, CK. And I have no idea what that is.
The banter continued throughout the session, and toward the end, the groups recorded their findings on the flip charts. Early on, there were signs of differing opinions.
I can name 15 misconceptions. That's knowledge. If I could do anything with it, that becomes PCK. That's where I see the line.
See, I think of that as PCS.
After the small group discussions, the groups met back in the common meeting room to discuss the ideas that emerged during the day's work. The groups posted their notes from the small group discussion on the walls of the main meeting room to make their thinking public. One person from each group was chosen as a curator to explain the day's work to others as the participants rotated around the room to learn what each group had discussed.
We came to the realization that content knowledge is much broader.
The final part of the day was spent with the large group summarizing key ideas and points of commonality and differences for the day.
Oh, okay. So that was commonality. We made a stab at trying to define that. That's great. Rather than resisting it, we at least made the effort.
While there were still some common points, there were clearly more areas of divergence than convergence at this time in the conference. As the day drew to a close, the organizers were unclear if they had laid the groundwork for a successful conference.
So think about whether your brain's murky for that reason or whether your brain's murky just because we're in a natural process of disequilibrium.
Or if the divergences were so great, it was not going to be productive to continue to search for consensus.
Remember, it seems like we have a lot of time, but we really don't. So to keep working on this.
The researchers continued the long days together, working and reasoning the material.
Reflect on your personal model of PCK as it stands this morning.
There was still some contention, but the further the researchers dug into the material, the more their ideas began to click. Consensus on a unified model was close. Everyone's spirits were up, and the excitement was palpable. The group, however, was still facing a block. By the end of day 4, the group was up against a wall.
Again, we're not sure where this is going to take us, but we'll find out by meeting.
They had made so much forward progress, but there were still pieces missing.
We need to have something which keeps everything coherent. Otherwise, what we'll end up with is a massive smaller projects which never really ever lead anywhere.
They knew they were close to describing a model that had the potential for consensus, but it wasn't clear what was missing to make that happen.
So one of our ideas was focusing on subject and maybe high leverage points, and maybe that relates to substance versus evolution as concepts. Then there's the idea about using tools across multiple sites. There's the idea about looking at what educational practices transfer across multiple countries.
Everyone left that night weary and puzzled. The sun rose on day 6, and the group filed into the main hall. This was it. They had 6 hours to buckle down and figure it out.
We're going to revisit conversations from yesterday.
They quickly got to work. The small group in the Arapahoe room wasted no time. Returning to the final large group wrap-up of the conference, every group chose a spokesperson to discuss their findings. Group after group came to the front of the hall with pages of resolutions. As each one presented their findings and all the participants added their feedback, a common thread of consensus began to form. As the final group presented and the participants said their farewells, a great sense of accomplishment fell over the crowd.
Thank you so much for being part of our little dream and making it all of ours. So, thanks. Enjoy.
They had done it. A significant group of PCK researchers the world over had agreed on a model for PCK that could be used to guide research and lead to more consistent questions and measures. In September 2013, many of the participants attended the European Science Education Association conference in Cyprus, where they reconvened to discuss the impact of the summit. While it seemed that some had adopted the new ideas and principles gleaned from the work done at the PCK Summit,
We don't have many years to debate in terms of its nature. We would like to run with some minimal consensus on what works. And at the moment, I think the community has a good sense of what works based on the different projects that are coming through.
others had been slower at adoption.
I'm not sure it's a model for me. I am not sure of it because I think that the model of Magnusson, Kratzik and Borkov still has too many people, including me.
So what is the future of PCK? PCK research is still alive and well. While it's true that implementation of the new ideas in broader research has been slower than the summit leaders would have liked, the community as a whole is moving in the direction of change. It may take longer than anyone thought for these ideas to truly change the nature of PCK research, but they will. All we need is time.